So we hit LeWeb 2013. So what are you going to do here? What are you doing?
I'm always doing the same thing, which is talking to lots of interesting people to try and understand what's the most interesting thing that's happening in technology and who are the most interesting people who are making those changes.
So what do you do day by day?
My wife asks me that every day. What is your job as? So I'm a venture capitalist. I invest in tech companies, and I tend to invest quite early. And so the job of a venture capitalist is sort of a funny job. We spend a lot of time just talking to people, being pitched on businesses, speaking around the world, and meeting lots of interesting people in hopes of the next great business being presented to us. And then once we see it, if we have the good sense to notice, oh, this is it, then we invest some number of millions of dollars and we say, let me be involved and help you build a big business. And that can take a year, that could take, I'm about to have spent 10 years on the board of Splunk, a company that I was the first investor in. It went public a year and a half ago. It's now 1,000 people. When it works, it's just this amazing path from a very small company to a big and influential business.
So how long time have you been doing this?
I've been a VC now for almost 14 years.
And you get lots of pitches. Do you get too many, or do you get enough, or do you want more? Or how does it work? Do you want people just send you emails?
No, I mean I do. I get probably 1,000 executive summaries sent to me in any given year. And I recently wrote a blog post about this. I have a blog called Venture Blog, and I decided I should let people know that of the let's say 15,000 pitches that I've gotten over time, of all of the pitches that have come to me without an introduction, I have funded none of them. And it is not because I have a bias against it. It's not because I think that the people who come to me directly are not interesting or smart. And in fact, I've read every single one of those executive summaries. But the reality is that really thoughtful, focused entrepreneurs know that the way to get to an investor is to find someone that they know and that you know who can make that mutual introduction, who can say, this person is interesting, is working on something that's interesting, and you say, oh, well, let me be focused on it, take it seriously, etc. So the best way to get to an investor is to get to them through someone that they trust, and the closer the relationship they have with that person and you have with that person, the more likely it will prove to be a valuable introduction.
So if I send a cool football sweater to John C. Dvorak and I become friends with him and he could introduce something like that?
Yeah, I mean,
maybe you don't trust him?
A sweater's okay. Dvorak's hilarious. I enjoy him. Although my firm is August Capital, and every time I'm with him, he calls it August Capital. He refuses to simply call it by the month because that's too plebeian. The best thing is to find people who are smart business thinkers like a Dvorak or one of my portfolio CEOs and build a relationship with them around what you're building, right? If they're excited about what you're building and they introduce it and say, this is meaningful, transformative technology, then you may be onto something. In fact, I was just talking with Charlie Moore, and Charlie Moore is the founder of a company called Rocket Lawyer. And I got an email from a guy named Danny Shader, who I had funded, saying, oh, I just got together with an old friend and learned about Rocket Lawyer. It's really interesting. You should hear the story. So I reconnected with Charlie and with Dan, who was the CEO over there, and it was an amazing story, and I funded the company. I mean, that's the path, is smart people telling you, you'll find this interesting, go dig in.
And when you fund a company, you take percent, right? Is that how it works?
Yep.
Does it like A class, B class, all that stuff? That's how that's how it works?
It just depends. It varies, but in general, what happens is that venture investors want to buy. We buy shares in your company, right? So we invest a certain number of dollars for a certain number of shares, and then we own that percentage of your business. So here is $10 million. I'm going to buy 20% of your company. Now, what the stock is we buy depends on the circumstances. Part of the challenge is to figure out what's the right stock given how far along the company is or how risky it is or whatever. So as a general matter, investors get what's called preferred stock, and preferred stock has a set of rights that are senior to common stock. It's stuff like you get your money back first, or you have the ability to vote on things like an acquisition, those sorts of things. So oftentimes when venture investors buy stock, those are the sorts of shares that they're buying. But sometimes they buy very simple common stock. Sometimes they buy really onerous preferred stock. It just depends on the circumstances.
Do you need to hire a whole bunch of people in your team to manage all this?
In my firm, there are 6 partners. The office has maybe 20 people in total. We don't have any associates or analysts. We think that if you're interested and excited about a company, then you should do the work to figure out if it's interesting. And if you are excited enough to invest in it, you should sit on the board. So we do this individually, but we manage hundreds of millions of dollars. So it's not, on the one hand, you don't need a lot of people to be venture investors. On the other hand, it's a hard business to scale. It's not the sort of thing where I can take these same 6 people and manage $2 billion in investment and feel like we're doing it in this as well as when we're managing 300 million.
So did you invest in Airbnb?
Oh, you're killing me. We actually, we spent a lot of time with the founders of Airbnb. We, in fact, gave them a term sheet and had a conversation around funding the company, which in the end didn't happen, around a conversation about...
was it 5 years ago, or?
This was in their series, their second round of financing.
Because Airbnb is crazy, you know? I mean, is it $12 billion now? What is it worth?
I don't know what it's worth, but I can tell you that had we invested in it, it would have been a great idea.
And how many Airbnbs are coming? Because Airbnb is fantastic, but you need to do Airbnbs with food, with cars.
Oh, they're happening there. In fact, we funded the Airbnb with cars. It's called Relay Rides, and it's the largest car sharing network in the world. And it's a great business. It's this very interesting opportunity for you to say, my car sits in the driveway 5 days a week. How can I put it to use and let others drive it? Or I'm driving to the airport. I'm going to be flying off to a meeting for 4 days. How can someone use my car when they land in the airport, have it back in time that when I land I can drive it home?
It's awesome.
Does it work? Absolutely works.
And it's easy on the mobile and everything.
It's simple. Absolutely drop dead simple. So if you're ever there are many airports in the United States now that you're flying into. Go use Relay Rides, and it's less expensive. You'll get a better car. You'll get a better experience. And if you're a car owner, you get free parking. The car is washed for you when you return. It's a great experience.
So what's it called? It's the Airbnb killing the car rental kind of business.
It's just another model, and in theory, it could, if it were to take off, you could imagine that it would take a lot of the cars that already exist on the roads and transfer them into the rental model, and that makes a bunch of sense, right? I own a Mini, a little teeny car, but every so often it wouldn't be bad to have an SUV that I could pick up big things in. I'd rather borrow someone else's SUV for the day than own an SUV all the time, right? So Relay Rides empowers that.
Insurance, all that works?
So all covered and managed by Relay Rides, which is how it all comes together.
Awesome. And but so do you sit there? Do you have these visions? Do you want to have stuff happen? So you look for the startups that do that stuff that you like, and then you try to make them work. Or because the way I see is that there's so many huge ideas, right, in technology, but when are they coming? When is it going to happen?
Yep.
So you have an opportunity to make it happen and make money, or?
It just depends on the investor. My view is that, as a general matter, the entrepreneurs are the smart ones. They're the visionaries. I mean, if a VC was that visionary, he or she should go start the company, right? I mean, if you started Facebook, if you funded Facebook, you made a ton of money. But if you started it, you made more, right? So if you have that vision for the next amazing technology company, then go build it. My view is that our job is to be helpful to individuals who have come up with that next great opportunity. So I spend a lot of time meeting with amazing people saying, oh, what is it you're building? And hope that when someone pitches it to me, say, oh, well, that would be amazing, right? I just funded a company called Fastly, and Fastly is a much better content distribution network. It's in the same space as Akamai and others in the CDN space. I wasn't looking to fund a CDN, but when the team presented what they had done around content distribution, it was so clear to me that it was better technology, more valuable, made more sense in a modern architecture, that it was a no-brainer that I would invest, and very happily now sit on the board of the company. So, and that's true of of all of my investments, someone comes in and describes for me, oh, here, Payoneer Me, a company I funded, is how do you take cash and convert it to digital currency? Well, the way Payoneer Me does it is they have relationships with 7-Eleven, these little stores in the United States where you go to 7-Eleven and you give them $42 and 7-Eleven says, okay, they scan a barcode and boom, they understand that this was to pay for your bus ticket or this was to pay your payment on your car or whatever. Really smart idea, empowers a big chunk of the American population who has no credit cards, have no bank accounts. I wouldn't have thought of that, but I'm thrilled to be an investor.
Cool. So it's going to be fun here at LeWeb. There's lots of people here. How do you know who's interesting here?
Oh, I don't know. You just talk to lots of people, and it's the same way that you fund companies, right? I look for great, interesting, smart people to introduce me to the most interesting companies. I look for these amazing people who I know at LeWeb to say, oh, have you met so and so? You'll enjoy this conversation. I say, oh, great, and then I have a conversation. And the reality is that's networking, right? Networking isn't this arbitrary process where I must meet so and so. It's, hey, you and I have a relationship. Now you and I have met several times at LeWeb, right? You say, hey, David, by the way, I met this interesting person. You should meet him. I say, great. Who is it? Let me have that conversation. So that's what I do at LeWeb is meet smart people and talk with the smart people they know, and hopefully build relationships with people that I want to do business with.
Cool. Thanks a lot. And I hope there will be a John C. O'Rourke show at some point.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I hope so too.
Okay. Thanks.
Thanks.